Gregorian Chant. Gregorian Chant is ground zero for Western Christian music, emerging right at the peak of the Middle Ages. Around the year 600, Pope Gregory the Great decided to unify the Church's music, making sure all of Europe was singing the exact same thing. That's where the name Gregorian Chant comes from. Back then the rule was clear: zero musical instruments. To speak to God, worship had to be done with the raw, naked human voice. The technique was monophony, a group of monks singing Latin texts, hitting the exact same note and the exact same melody, all together. It might sound simple, but when dozens of men sing the same note inside a stone church, the sound carries an impressive acoustic weight. The echo off the walls makes it feel like the voice is coming from the ceiling, not from people. It's a sound tailor-made to echo through cold cathedrals and make you feel tiny next to the divine. Byzantine Chant. While the West focused on the simplicity of Gregorian chant, the Byzantine Empire over in the East decided to innovate. Their big breakthrough was the use of microtones. Picture a piano. Our Western music uses the white and black keys. The Byzantines sang the tiny microscopic frequencies that exist exactly between those keys. Since they didn't use instruments either, they created what's called the ison. It's a choir of men singing a single, continuous low note, creating a constant sonic carpet. Over this foundation, a soloist sings complex melodies. To our Western ears, it might even sound like the singer is out of tune. But in reality, it's an ancient technique designed to fill Eastern churches with a dense, hypnotic atmosphere. Russian Orthodox choir. How do you fill the silence of a massive cathedral in Russia without using a single musical instrument? The Russians solved this challenge by focusing on singers with absurdly deep Slavic voices, the famous basso profondo. They hit notes so low and full-bodied that they literally act as the bass guitar of a band, holding down the foundation for the entire choir. Unlike the simple melody of the Gregorian chant, or that continuous drone of the Byzantine, the Russian choir sounds like a literal wall of sound. You have dozens of voices divided into blocks, singing together inside churches with domes specifically designed to amplify volume. The result is a sound so monumental that it makes instruments completely unnecessary. The church itself acts as the perfect amplifier for the human voice. Classical polyphony. Back in the West, we hit the Renaissance. The Catholic Church decided that singing just one note wasn't cutting it anymore. Church architecture was getting grander, and the music needed to keep up. This is where polyphony reached its peak. Instead of everyone singing the same thing, choirs were split into 4, 5, sometimes 40 different voices, singing distinct melodies that intertwined perfectly in the air. To support this crazy sonic math, the heavyweight champion of Christian music entered the scene. The pipe organ, a complex machine capable of mimicking an entire orchestra, literally making the church floor shake. The goal here was no longer simplicity, but splendor. It was human capability trying to build a sound that mirrored the complexity of heaven itself. Traditional hymns. Traditional hymns are the result of a massive revolution in 16th century Europe, the Protestant Reformation. Until then, music was strictly for choirs singing in Latin. The genius move by leaders like Martin Luther was translating the lyrics and putting the music directly into the mouths of the people. The trademark became the entire congregation singing together, guided by a piano or organ, perfectly divided into 4-part harmony. In the US, this became the historic soundtrack of Protestant churches, immortalized in classic hymnals. These are the styles of hymns that cross generations, like How Great Thou Art, The Old Rugged Cross, and Whiter Than Snow, featuring solemn melodies and lyrics that are absolute masterclasses in theology. Spirituals. Before gospel even existed, there were spirituals. They are the root of all Black American music. Emerging on the plantations during the era of slavery in the United States, these were purely a cappella songs, driven only by hand claps and feet stomping on the ground. You know those powerful scenes from movies like 12 Years a Slave or The Color Purple? That's exactly the sound. More than just music, it was a deep lament, and often they served as secret codes for escape routes on the Underground Railroad. It's raw, unfiltered faith, immortalized in classics like Go Down, Moses, and Wade in the Water. Roots Gospel. Roots Gospel was born from a cultural clash in the black communities of the American South. They learned the European Christian hymns, which had a rigid, standardized meter. But there was a problem. That structure didn't fit the rhythmic complexity of African music, and small wooden churches didn't have the money to buy organs or instruments. The solution was to reverse engineer the music. They took the Christian lyrics and injected the blues scale and syncopation, which is the mathematical technique of accenting the offbeat of the music. To make up for the lack of instruments, the congregation itself became the drum kit and percussion. They used offbeat claps and stomped on the wooden floors to drive the rhythm. The whole structure was built on a call and response format, where the leader sings a loose line and the choir throws it back as a harmonic block. The result is a sound of high energy and vocal improvisation. You listen to Roots Gospel and you instantly realize this is exactly where the technical foundation for R&B, soul, and rock and roll was born. Contemporary Christian music. Contemporary Christian music is the moment when music leaves the church choirs and takes over FM radio. Between the 80s and the 2000s, the sound picked up electric guitars, drum kits, and the exact same packaging as secular pop music. In the US, this was the massive boom of the CCM industry during the cassette and CD era, when bands and solo artists became bona fide rock stars. Think of Christian rock bands like DC Talk and Jars of Clay, or the massive crossover hits that played everywhere from artists like Amy Grant and Michael W. Smith. The message was still about faith, but the packaging was pure radio-ready pop and rock. Contemporary worship. By the end of the 20th century, choirs and pipe organs just weren't connecting with a generation raised on pop music and massive rock concerts. The solution was to import audio technology from global world tours straight into church services. And so, contemporary worship was born. The traditional structure gave way to bands with deep synthesizers and delay-heavy guitars, creating a dense sound that fills every empty space in the room. The music works like an emotional journey. It starts out minimalist and slowly builds up until it explodes in the chorus, often backed by stage lights and LED screens. And to make sure everyone is part of this immersive experience, the lyrics are intentionally simple and repetitive, designed so that thousands of people can sing along with their eyes closed. And just like that, Christian music finally reached the exact same level of production and aesthetic appeal as the biggest mainstream bands in the world today. If you enjoyed this, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next videos. Also, drop your topic suggestions down in the comments. I read all of them. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.